Just in the past 30 days, we've launched more than 750,000 hyper-personalized cold emails for all of our clients across 19 different niches. And we're using this AI process that basically does the entire customization process from start to finish, all the way from the subject lines to the email copy and the sequence itself. And since we started implementing this process, our cold email results have just absolutely skyrocketed, and it's never really been easier. So in this video, I'm gonna build an entire campaign for you live from start to finish using this AI process and personalizing every bit of the copy so you can maximize your reply rates. But first, this is critical. None of this matters if your lead list sucks. Even if you have the most advanced AI backing you, if you reach out to the wrong people, your campaign's just gonna fall flat. So let me show you how you can build a hyper-targeted lead list in under 60 seconds. So for each of our clients that comes on board, we have them just complete an onboarding form that's just very thorough. Who's your ICP? What do you sell? How do you sell it? What are the typical pain points that your customers have? How do you uniquely solve those challenges? And then any marketing collateral. And then from there, we build out projects within Claude that help serve as response agents when we get initial replies, but they also serve as just a good knowledge base for when we go to start just building future campaigns. And so I just built out a quick prompt for going out and actually scraping that information or trying to digest and identify who would be the best people for that. I will also share this in the comments as well, in case you guys want to utilize this for your own outreach strategy. I'll be sharing a few resources as we go throughout. So this is gonna be helpful. It's just gonna help figure out the company filtering criteria. So we're looking at a few industries, the company sizes, all US based, yep, spot on. Cool, these are good things that are like established companies, not startups, yep. Like these are all good things that we can filter for when we start doing this next step. So this is like the first step. We have some good things to at least filter for the company and the persona level targeting, and then also things that we wanna avoid. So let's pretend that now we've pulled that entire lead list and we've brought it into our tool Clay. We've gone through, of course, the standard process here of bringing in that data, enriching it itself through a waterfall enrichment strategy, and then verifying it with tools like Million Verifier and TriKit. Those are the two that we're using right now. We're just finding that they're the most cost effective and successful as well for our clients. So this gets into really the next big phase of this project. And so what we want to do is get a good understanding of what's going on in the macro environment. So what's everything going on in the industry itself. And then we want to identify what's going on with this specific business. So then we can say like, hey, we know really everything that's going on in your world, and then write hyper-targeted outreach to those individuals. For the case of this client here, what we know that they do is they provide product development, offshoring, and outsourcing. So what that means is if you are a product developer in the US and you typically just outsource your manufacturing to China or Taiwan, right? They're gonna be hit with higher tariffs. And so they want to potentially look at bringing those stateside or to non-tariff levied places so that they can just not have to boost all their prices and pass them on to the customers and lose business. So the first step of this is to one, utilize GPT to be like, give me a comprehensive overview of everything that's going on within this tariff landscape right now. I've already done that here. And so it goes really in depth into everything that's going on that might be relevant to the business personas that we're reaching out to. I also share that business persona with GPT so it can help target to those, or excuse me, tailor it to those individuals. The next aspect of that is a company overview. Now, this is just a holistic overview of Productivo, who they are, who they help, what makes them unique, their actual strategies, and then customer case studies as well. So now we have a good understanding of the macro environment and exactly how Productivo typically helps businesses. Now, the next part of this is where we need to go more detailed into what's going on in the micro environment. And so if you made it to this part of the video, it's gonna be like the most impactful and resourceful here in the next few minutes. So we want to go and conduct deep research on each individual target business. So I've already gone ahead and created a script, but let's create one from scratch here. GPT. I need help creating a research prompt to identify to We're looking for stateside options. They'll be sharing rules such as website, LinkedIn profile of company, then LinkedIn profile of the person itself, coaching itself, being incredibly detailed in your role creation as this will serve as the basis for future AI models to write against, or write against works. And then what we also want to do is make sure the model includes reasoning into reasoning. Where ideally, we'll let shoot call out the pain points the business is likely to do. Business and persona. Cool. So two of the things that I've learned throughout this journey here is one is that you want the model to be really detailed in its role creation so that it just provides a better output. And I'll show you more in the copywriting portion of this video. And then the other part of this is like, make sure the model includes reasoning, because otherwise models by default, they're going to want to spend the lowest amount of capital available just so you get the best results at the lowest price point. But with reasoning, if it's going to go in like reason of like, hey, all right, these people's website looks static, and so therefore they probably don't spend a ton of money on marketing, and that they're likely to rely on existing channel partnerships, like that's good reasoning that we can utilize in our outreach strategy. I want the, and then we do stuff. So this is going to take us through a 4-step process here, which is going to build out the RISE framework. I'll show you what the RISE framework here is in a second, but it's like role, information, steps, and then expected outputs. I want the AI model, build, knowledge bases. With product, manufacturing, top story. To see if we can help them. Then describe your target audience and business. So that's where you can just come in here. Just copy this. It's going to be incredibly detailed. Company, LinkedIn. Profile, target company LinkedIn, and then the website. We'll show for this model here itself, we're going to make sure that this actually has website access. So you'll have to set it to the web research agent option as opposed to the create or modify content. That'll just be important because it'll make sure that the AI defaults to going and doing the website, doing the reasoning. Several sections. Let's see what I already got here. Oh no. Kids home. Right, and so you can build this out however you want, but like I've already done this a few times, or just in several sections. So that's gonna go ahead and, okay, so it's using the RISE framework, that's fine. All right, cool. So actually, senior supply chain consultant, right? So this is what I mean when it's like incredibly detailed on its role. Like that's really specific to the target persona that we're going to reach out to. And so that's why it's going to be able to create hyper-personalized copy to speak to those people. The instructions there itself, right, goes through the entire process, lists the steps that we want to use. Amazing. Ready sections, cool. So then you just take this, and then you just fire this into Clay, and then you'll just build out and just include the variables that you want to run here, and then it'll end up running. So what you're going to find here is now you're going to have a huge knowledge basis of data to work with. It's going to be just like a huge raw set of data. And now what you can do is that'll serve as the knowledge basis for your feature writing. So we have the macro, right, that we've done through GPT to say, like, here's everything that's going on in the industry here itself. And then we have the micro level, like, here's what's specifically going on within this business. Now, one of the things that I found helpful for actually rewriting the data and why you see this confidence column is if the confidence is not like anything above medium, then it's worth just rewriting the data because it'll just increase your outputs. Because when you look at the results of medium versus like, or if you look at once you start comparing the results and you see very high versus like medium and low, it's a huge difference. It's even when you're including this reasoning as well. So it'll just be helpful to keep in mind. Awesome. So here is the cold email copy. So this is where we're going to take this 3 different columns that we've used thus far. So the company overview, the macro environment, and then the micro environment. And we're going to run that to actually create the cold email copy. Now we're going to go back to the same prompt here. This prompt engineer, this GPT, which I'll also link in the comments because it's incredibly helpful and I don't want to gatekeep this. So we're going to let us help read a prompt. Each target persona. Our lead list. The script writer. This day. Why you now format. So quick thing here on like the scripting is you typically want to tell it what formula you want to utilize it for copywriting. Now there's a ton of different formats in copywriting. You can do PAS, it's paid agitation solution. That's a pretty good one. It's gonna be a shorter copy. That's probably gonna be like 3 to 4 sentences. I like why you now, and what that looks like. It's like, hey, I know some specific pain point, ask a pain point oriented question around it, provide exactly how you can help, and then maybe layer in a case study or just a call to action, like a value driven call to action. Alternatively, you can do things like the 4 Ps, but I like to save that for the follow-up email. But anyways, there's a ton of different ways that you can formulate that. So let me just show you just how I like to do it for the initial introductory email with the why you now format. It's one of the best cold email templates that I've ever seen around, and it yields the best results for our clients. We want the script editor use the why you now format. Use a observation, a likely challenge, to be countered, their business. Question. CTA. Now this is one of the more important aspects, is the role creation specifically around copywriting. We want the AI model or the AI scriptwriter to write in the voice of a founder speaking to another founder at the crowded industry trade show. Oh no, my video just paused. All right. So this next part is like incredibly important, specifically like the role creation. So we want the AI scriptwriter to write in the voice of a founder speak to another founder at a crowded industry trade show. Be casual, be concise, write in short sentences, short sections, or actually short words and short sentence sections. Each section should be 1 to 2 sentences, separated by a natural paragraph. That should be pretty good there. So now it's going to ask for more information. So that's what we're going to come in, and we're just going to share all the information that we know about product eval. This next question it's going to ask is, what are the custom variables that we're going to provide? Industry level research, macro company level research, micro product eval helps. The job title. And the reason why I want to include the job title here is so that it can actually tailor the email to the pain points that are being faced by that persona, because somebody that's a CEO is going to have entirely different pain points than somebody that's all the product manufacturing team. What do you expect the output to look like? Let's just a JSON format. It should be a clearly formatted, to a structure that mentioned previously. Output should be in JSON format, like the subject, lowercase, casual, check, internal email, and body, normal sentence, structure. All right, that should be good enough. Cool. Access is enough. How do you understand the realities? So this is going to be a pretty detailed prompt. Agitated with a pain-oriented question. Awesome. Cool. And there's no better way to figure out if this works than by trying it out itself. So we're going to come back over to our clay table. And we're going to go over and create a new row. Use AI. If you haven't already, just make sure that you have your GPT AI key hooked up here. It's going to just save you a lot of money at the end. I like how 4.1 mini is writing right now. I go back and forth between Claude's model and Forum Mini. I just wish Claude or Anthropic just wasn't so expensive. That's why I typically default to just using Forum Mini. So we do tariff. So this is like the macro research. I'm gonna spell research, so I don't think it's gonna matter. And then we're gonna come down here. Instead of research model, build this do. Sports. Okay. I like to just label what each of these is. It'll just help the model understand and just be a little bit more intuitive, as like the ultimate goal with an AI model is like determine like what is the next word that you guys are going to say. And so if you just give it all the information it needs, it's just going to go a lot quicker. Right, so you can see I can do this for really any company here itself. Let me just clean this up here a bit. Just delete that section. Now, what's likely to happen, I'm going to keep these agnostic for now. I just want to see the results. Break this up. I didn't include a word limit, and I think that might be an issue here. I might be surprised, but let's see. It's actually pretty good. All right, cool. All right, so the subject line of this is tariffs got to be rethinking manufacturing. Saw zeros likely navigating bigger costs with the new 2025 tariffs. Doubling steel and aluminum duties plus high China tariffs must be squeezing margins hard. Are these rising costs slowing down your production or making you rethink your offshore partners? Productiva helps brands like yours shift parts of the line closer to home, cutting delays and taming the unpredictable tariff costs. Mind if I share more on this? The only problem with this is that it's all structured out on the second lines, so we'll have to work with the model to fix that. Salt Daily Tumbler relies on multifactorial sports steel with tariffs, now up to 50% on steel and universal 10% on imports. Costs must be creeping up fast. That is such good research. Like there's, for a regular account executive to write that email, that would take 15 to 30 minutes, and you have to have deep understanding of like everything that's going on within the business there itself. Are these rising tariffs forcing you to rethink where or how you make your tumblers? Productiva helps founders like you find vetted, cost-effective factors outside of China, cutting delays and surprise cost. All right, so let's just run this on. Hold on, I messed this up. Sorry, it's not going to come out how I want. I need to run this. So the output that I had here is JSON. Now the reason I wanted it as JSON is so that I can just easily import these two fields as separate. So that way it can have the personalized subject line and the actual email body here itself. So it'll run it again, and then I'll push this over, and then I'll show you how you can just create these into separate columns. All right, cool. So this is how the email body is going to read. What's the size of letter? Cool. So this will be the subject line. Then personalization. One, email. If you're utilizing a tool, specifically like Smart Leads or Instantly, and you're working across multiple customers, or like you're gonna hit a contact multiple times, make sure you tag it secondarily with the campaign that's gonna be associated with. That way you don't overlap or like the messages get crossed. And so it's just a little small nitty-gritty detail. So what we can see here is we have an issue already. We see that we have like, hey Tori, hey Kevin's, right? So there's nothing that we can utilize specifically with like the hey first name variables. That's gonna be like formatted cleanly. So we'll need to vet that out. But let's just look at the copy here itself. So notice Tori sports deep roots in Asian manufacturing with tariffs on steel, aluminum, and China cost soaring must be hitting you hard. Actually, let me just read this, copy this into here really quickly. Hey Tori, notice. That's pretty awesome. The only thing that I don't like about this is like, it should read like this. Like this shouldn't be in a separate line. This should be like this. Like that's how the email should read, right? So we're gonna go back into the model and we're gonna do a little tweaking. But you can see the path that we're going down here now, which is like refining this out. And so you can change the copywriting formats and styles to adjust to that. All right, so I'm gonna go back to the model here, and I'm actually gonna provide it this example output so I can show it exactly what I mean. Where's yeah? Below is a current example output that we've done that part scripting model. Instead, that was if they're all on separate lines. And then we also want to make a tweak of saying remove the interactions of P, I, left. I'm going to provide an example so I can see. Now, one of the other things that you can do that we've done for other campaigns is actually have it write a PS as well that you can utilize in the email. For the purpose of this video, I just didn't do it because I don't really think it relates. The email itself should be good, but for like other ones that are trying to like break into like an enterprise sale, you can do like really personalized elements in there. All right, updated format, update the rule for the email body. Email should be okay, so we'll come back over here. That's good. That's not. Where did it say? Update a rule for the email body. I was just going to rewrite the whole thing. Now, one of the biggest constraints with cold email is that you have to spend the time, energy, and resources yourself to figure it out, which takes you time away from what you actually enjoy doing most and make the most money from, which is running your business and making sales. So if you just want this whole system deployed within your business and you just want to enjoy 10 to 40 different qualified sales calls on your calendar every single month, book a call with us down here below and let's see if we can find some time to chat. See, sometimes it shortens it up, and that's like not what I want to do. I just wanted to add this notes. So let me just see. I'm just going to add that to here. Remember to include this section down here below. This should give us a really solid output. I'm excited for this. If you do this long enough, you get pretty excited when you get some pretty good outputs. All right, cool. Did I include an expected for? That's fine. We're just gonna clean this up really quickly. Final note. All right, we're gonna run this again on 10 rows. That should be pretty close, but you can see how over the course of time, we can just tweak and edit this specifically on like the rules and instructions to get the ideal output that we're looking for. And then you can just apply different copywriting formats, like the ones that I mentioned thus far. I really just do think why you now is a great one. I posted one the other day on Twitter, which is like hook, pivot, proof, and then a solution, and then I like how you can help. So it's a very similar format to what we're doing now with why now, just a little bit different. I've seen it work pretty effectively. All right, so let's see, come back in here. Cool. So it's gonna be like, hey Troy, notice Tory Sports deep roots in global sourcing, the 2025, right? So that'll read pretty well. Notice Tory, I like it. How much are these hikes shaking up your current supplier deals or timeline expectation? Yeah, that's amazing. That's a great email. Incredibly relevant, incredibly well researched. Let's do this again. And I just want to make sure. So like this one's the ideal output here. So you just have to mess around with the tinkering, mess around with the formatting over the course of time to like get the ideal output that you're looking for here. But once you can just even come back over here and you can be like, this is the whole prompt that we have right now, edit this according to what we're looking for. So that's the structure for writing the initial cold email, or the initial introductory cold email. You take the personalization one and then the subject line to start really running that in, and you can import that into Smartly. Now, the second thing that we want to do here is actually write that follow-up email. I've gone ahead for the purpose of this video, and you can understand the format that we previously applied, but I'm going to just take you through the prompt that I wrote, and you can just utilize this exactly within that GPT prompt editor, or you can create it on your own. But the ultimate aim here is you want to either do one of two things. One is you want to further elaborate on what you talked around and then align a different pain point and benefit that you can provide. Or number two is you want to use the 4P writing framework to actually call out that pain point and then paint a picture of exactly how you can help and then provide a proof point for showing that you did that. So what that looks like here, you have the role, right? And this role can get even more in depth. The follow-up for these guys, I wanted to be a bit smaller. So I don't want like 800 characters. For some of our other clients, I extend that up to like 1,000 characters. And that's usually helpful. And then I'll set a minimum of doing like at least 600 and 700, but just want to like give it a range to work with. Give it the inputs that it'll have. And then the job title, right? Because we always want to speak to the person itself, unless we're reaching out to C-suite and then just going to talk about the business and like what they're focused on. And then for all of our emails, our best performing cold email campaigns, for the follow-ups, it says, I have reached out the other day, but likely didn't do the best job explaining. It just sounds really human at the introduction. Then you reference something from the research, reinstall how we can help, use bullet points, and then end with a low friction CTA. You give it the output format, and then you kind of see what you got here. So we can see with this email, I'd reached out the other day, but likely didn't do the best job explaining how to help companies like Toy Sport manage complex global sourcing while maintaining the high design and performance standards tied to Toy Birch's heritage. With their emphasis on supply chain transparency and sustainability, amid expanding activewear lines, here's how we help support teams stretch thin. And then it goes through a few bullet points. And then like worth a quick chat, right? So we can even add on to that if we wanted it to be long-winded, being like provide a case study and then a long-winded CTA of like, mind if I share a little bit more on this or open to discussing this over a brief call, right? So you can see how you can spin that a few ways. Now, one of the things I would go back and give feedback on this script is that in the role creation itself, I typically like to make a note to write at an 8th grade reading level. I found that that's really helpful for just making it simplistic, right? And we talked about when you're building out a role to use short words, short sentences, and short sections. People just like to read it that way. They like to see emails or sentences, that end in a preposition, and then they start with things like and or but instead of things like therefore or furthermore, right? That's just not how humans really read, and so it just makes it for an easier digesting side of things. But that's all just like copywriting, tweaking, and editing that I go throughout. And then from there, you just quickly utilize Smart Lead if that's your sending tool, or Instantly, or Bison's a little bit more complex, but it's got better deliverability. And then you can just map these things specifically for what you're looking to import. As I mentioned, for the custom fields, just make sure you're tagging those correctly so you're not having overlap and you're like cross-referencing, you're messing up your messaging and whatnot. You want to make sure that those are broken out nicely. So you can see how this is the entire structure from start to finish, right? This is how you personalize you bring in the company information, utilizing your project overview, share me everything that's going on within our business right now, and like who we are, how do we help, how uniquely do we help, and then any case studies you have. You give that to Claude, it'll give you a huge information dump, and you bring that in here. From there, you do the same thing, but you want to say, all right, give me an overarching landscape of everything that's going on right now in the tariff landscape of like how that's impacting the criteria that we've already shared over. So now we have the company overview, the macro. The next thing we do is the micro, and that's where we build out the custom prompts to go and research and access the information that's really important to us for our outreach strategies. And then from there, we utilize that same GPT model to go and write the one-to-one copy utilizing the why now format. And then for the follow-up email, writing I'd reached out the other day, but likely didn't do the best job explaining. If you do all those things, you're going to have personalized first emails, the subject line itself, and then the follow-up email. You can even do the breakup email personalized and maybe even call out a colleague that they might be working with there. We found that to be incredibly effective, just if you want to spend some of those AI credits. Now, that's just one use case. Quickly, one of the other use cases that we found to be really helpful as a nice little bonus in this video is if you're doing a competitor takedown, you can source a list with something like Built With, and then from there, you just want to do a really similar flow of a comprehensive overview of your existing business and how you help. Do research on the actual persona and the challenges the persona is dealing with there. And then we'll also include another variable here of how our solution compares versus the other one. And then we're just going to write one-to-one copy in a very similar format. And so, juggling product ops means chaos with tickets and slow fixes. Does Zendesk slow your team down with clunky workflows and poor mobile use? That mess steals hours and focus every day, making it tough to cut through your SLAs and keep teams in sync. Wavy cuts through that with zero code workflows you can tweak fast, AI writing that speeds up tickets, and one dashboard for full visibility. Your team can even handle tickets on the go. For teams like yours, it's simple and smarter. No more waiting on IT or lost infos and silos. Plus, it's about 40% cheaper than Zendesk. Open to a quick demo. So that's where we applied all that copywriting logic that we talked about to write short words, short sentences, and short sections. So it's a really easy to read. Let me just bring this over here to you so you can see how this is going to look in an email. Like that's a really good cold email, right? That's 5 sections. That's okay because like the solution's more cumbersome. The individuals that we're dealing with, what we found, well, albeit counterintuitive, is that they want more information to make a decision. So that was what we found to be incredibly effective thus far. Now, after watching this video, you should have everything that you need to know to write personalized cold emails utilizing AI to help book more calls and start closing more deals. However, it's going to be all for naught if you can't get around the dreaded spam filters of Google and Microsoft and end up in the inbox as opposed to the spam filters. So if you want to learn how to do that and avoid those challenges, check out this video here. I'll see you there.